Picture this: the greatest industrial empires ever built. Towering factories, cutting-edge assembly lines, brilliant engineers reshaping civilization. Now imagine all of it collapsing. Not from wars, not from natural disasters, but from a spreadsheet. What you're about to discover is a hidden chapter in financial history. One that explains why our infrastructure crumbles, why aircraft fall from the sky, and why once thriving cities lie hollow. These aren't random failures. They're the direct consequences of a financial virus that spread through the world's most powerful corporations. This is the untold story of how accountants assassinated engineers, how financial manipulation replaced innovation, how the pursuit of paper wealth destroyed the capacity to create real physical value. Welcome to the dark side of modern financial history. Today, we're not discussing technological decline or global competition. We're exposing something far more deliberate: the systematic financialization of industrial empires, and what financial historians are finally beginning to acknowledge as one of the greatest economic mistakes of our era. Over the next 10 minutes, we'll examine three pivotal moments in financial history that fundamentally reshaped our world. First, Japan's Zytek illusion, 1980s to 1990s. We'll reveal how the world's most efficient manufacturers, companies like Toyota and Sony, secretly transformed into highly leveraged, reckless financial institutions. How did the world's greatest industrial powers become banks in disguise? The financial history of this era holds the answer. Second, the Jack Welch revolution at General Electric, 1981 to 2001. We'll dismantle one of corporate history's most destructive ideologies: how the legacy of Thomas Edison was systematically dismantled and rebuilt into an unregulated financial casino. This is the financial history of when profit maximization replaced engineering excellence. Third, Boeing's Buyback catastrophe, 2013 to 2019. We'll expose the deadly mechanism of stock buybacks, the financial strategy that sacrificed 346 lives. This isn't just corporate malfeasance, it's a cautionary tale in recent financial history. If you understand these three cases, you'll understand why modern industrial civilization faces an existential crisis. Chapter 1. Japan's Zytek illusion, the financial history of greed, the 1980s. A pivotal decade in financial history. The entire world watched Japan with unprecedented fascination. Toyota, Sony, Panasonic. These weren't just companies, they were seemingly unstoppable industrial juggernauts that appeared to possess some mysterious competitive advantage. Western business schools scrambled to decode their secrets. Executives made pilgrimages to Japanese factories to study their lean production methods, their obsessive attention to quality, their engineering philosophy. But behind this gleaming facade of technological dominance and export dominance, financial historians today recognize a fatal cancer spreading through the Japanese economy. Enter Zytek. The term itself, financial engineering, sounds clinical, innocent, but the financial history of Zytek reveals something far more sinister. Instead of reinvesting their enormous profits into research, development, and next-generation manufacturing technology, Japan's industrial titans made a choice that would echo through decades of financial history. They discovered they could borrow capital at historically unprecedented interest rates, sometimes as low as 2.5%. With virtually free money at their disposal, they abandoned their core mission. They stopped building. They became speculators. With cheap borrowed capital, they launched aggressive campaigns into the stock market. They inflated real estate assets to absurd valuations. They created complex financial derivatives ahead of their time. These weren't manufacturers anymore. They were financial predators, and their balance sheets reflected a disturbing disconnect from physical reality. The shocking truth: by 1987, a critical year in financial history, some of Japan's largest industrial corporations were earning more profit from financial speculation than from their actual manufacturing operations. Let that sink in. Toyota, a company whose very name is synonymous with cars, became known in financial circles as Toyota Bank. Its speculative financial assets dwarfed its automotive revenue. Honda, Mitsubishi, Sumitomo, all the same story. Japanese financial history was writing itself in red ink, and no one seemed to notice or or care. They were intoxicated by paper wealth. Financial history shows us that this intoxication always ends the same way. The collapse. When the Japanese asset bubble inevitably burst in 1990, the illusion shattered violently. These proud industrial empires suddenly found their balance sheets buried under toxic, worthless assets. Their speculative bets, leveraged to dangerous levels, turned into financial anchors. To merely survive, they were forced to make a devastating choice: slash investments in real manufacturing and innovation to repay their financial debts. This marks one of the darkest periods in modern financial history. Japan's lost decade. Industrial progress ground to a halt. Innovation ceased. The country that had once led the world in manufacturing excellence entered a deflationary spiral from which it would never fully recover. But financial historians recognize a crucial detail. This plague was far from contained to Japan. Chapter 2. The Jack Welch Model. When financial strategy killed American engineering, the clock strikes the 1980s in America. Simultaneously with Japan's financial implosion, a corporate revolution quietly began on the other side of the Pacific, one that would prove equally destructive to industrial civilization. General Electric, founded by Thomas Edison himself. For over a century, GE represented the pinnacle of American industrial ingenuity. But the financial history of GE's transformation reads like a corporate tragedy. The philosophy that changed everything entered Jack Welch, GE's legendary CEO. His philosophy was seductively simple and, in retrospect, catastrophically flawed. Manufacturing, Welch realized, was difficult, time-consuming, capital-intensive, and the profit margins? Disappointingly modest. Perhaps 5% on a well-made refrigerator. But lending someone the money to buy that refrigerator? That was where real profits lived. A 15% margin and virtually no physical risk. Welch's solution: rapidly expand General Electric's financial division, creating GE Capital. Transform an engineering company into a financial services company wearing an industrial disguise. The transformation was swift and fundamentally toxic. The numbers don't lie. By 2001, GE Capital was generating more than 60% of General Electric's total corporate profits. Let that statistic sink into your understanding of financial history. The greatest engineering company in American history, the company founded by the inventor of the light bulb, had effectively become a bank. An unregulated, highly leveraged, dangerously exposed bank that simply wore the hollowed-out skin of an industrial corporation. GE's financial history had pivoted from building excellence to financial engineering. The consequences were inevitable. The reckoning 2008, the global financial crisis, a moment that exposed the catastrophic vulnerability of GE's financial strategy. When credit markets froze, when the financial machinery that GE Capital depended upon suddenly stopped functioning, the entire empire nearly collapsed. GE Capital's losses were so severe that the parent company was forced to sell off its actual productive asset, its manufacturing division, its engineering legacy, all liquidated to cover financial losses. The ultimate humiliation arrived in 2018 when General Electric was expelled from the Dow Jones Industrial Average after 111 consecutive years of inclusion. The physical death of an industrial giant caused entirely by financial decisions made decades earlier. Financial historians now recognize this moment as a turning point, when Wall Street greed finally consumed its host organism. But the story doesn't end here. In fact, the worst was yet to come. Chapter 3. The Boeing stock buyback disaster. The final chapter of this financial story is the darkest. It's the story of how a financial strategy, detached from reality, detached from ethics, and detached from conscience, directly contributed to a human tragedy. The fall from the top. For decades, Boeing was a company guided by a rigorous engineering ethic. Safety was sacrosanct. Innovation was relentless. The company culture was shaped by engineers obsessed with structural integrity and operational excellence. Then came the late 1990s, a merger with McDonnell Douglas, a subtle but massive shift in the company culture. Financial professionals replaced engineers in leadership, accountants replaced visionaries. The decision was made to move the company's headquarters from Seattle, where the factories and brilliant engineers were actually working, to Chicago. The code was clear: move away from the factory floor, closer to Wall Street, and let the financial machine dictate strategy. Share buyback strategy. Between 2013 and 2019, Boeing's finance management made a decision that resulted in the deaths of 346 people. The company allocated $43.4 billion exclusively to share buybacks. Let's be perfectly clear about what share buybacks are. They are a mechanism for artificially inflating stock prices for the benefit of shareholders and executive rewards. They are a deceptive financial game that prioritizes paper wealth over creating real value. At the same time, Boeing faced a critical engineering challenge, developing the 737 MAX. Instead of investing in properly redesigning the aging airframe, something that would have been both expensive and time-consuming, Boeing's finance management made a disastrous decision. They rejected redesign and instead installed a software solution, MCAS, on an outdated airframe. They outsourced critical engineering work to temporary contractors who were paid $9 an hour. Quality assurance was prioritized over cost reduction. Human losses. The result is etched in modern financial history. Two horrific disasters. Lion Air Flight 610 and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302. 346 innocent lives lost. The entire Boeing fleet was grounded. Investigations revealed systemic negligence. A company once considered a symbol of engineering excellence was exposed for prioritizing financial gain over human safety. Here's what worries financial historians. The $43.4 billion wasted on share buybacks would have been more than enough to completely redesign the 737 MAX from scratch to the highest safety standards in aviation history. Instead, Boeing chose paper wealth over human lives. Financial history is full of cautionary tales, but few are as poignant, tragic, and revealing as this one. What do these three cases have in common? Each case represents a pivotal turning point in modern financial history. They all exhibit the same pattern, a decision to prioritize financial engineering over the creation of real, tangible value. And they all demonstrate the same disastrous outcome, the destruction of industrial capacity, human security, and economic resilience. We didn't lose our ability to build because we forgot how to innovate, nor did we lose it because of external competition or technological obsolescence. Rather, we lost it because we allowed, and sometimes even celebrated, a financial system that rewards the manipulation of securities at the expense of actual production, a system that incentivizes executives to deplete wealth instead of creating it. When modern society structurally prioritizes financial abstraction over physical production, collapse is not a possibility, but an inevitable reality. Who owns the future? The future belongs to the societies and institutions that remember what Japan missed in the 1980s, General Electric in the 2000s, and Boeing in the 2000s. True wealth comes from building real things. The question is not whether another industrial empire will face this crisis, but whether we will have the wisdom to learn from financial history before it repeats itself. You have just witnessed three pivotal moments in modern financial history. Three different companies. Three different eras, the same fatal mistake. If this analysis of financial history has touched your heart, if you are concerned about the future of our economy, then this knowledge is too important to keep to yourself. Subscribe to this channel to follow the latest in-depth investigations into the financial history that shapes our world. Share this video with anyone who needs to understand how financial decisions have impacted the world over the decades. Because understanding financial history isn't just an academic pursuit. It's the difference between civilizations that learn from their mistakes and those doomed to repeat them. The choice is yours. The future is being written now.